So most founders say that they want a business that can run without them. And most founders believe that they have systems in place. But what they often have is not real systems. It's habits or tools that are in place, but their team still depends on them to make decisions or solve problems. In this video, I'll show you what real systems actually look like, why most businesses overcomplicate building them, and a simple way to start creating systems this week. By the end, you'll know whether you actually do have systems or whether your business still depends on you more than you think. Well, let's talk about what a system actually is. And you will also have an introduction to my artistic skills. So this is me right here, the particularly good-looking stick figure guy. I'm standing in front of a camera that's sitting right here on a tripod. That camera has a little wire connected to it to a floating laptop. It's not actually floating, but I'm not going to draw everything because I'm pushing my luck. That floating laptop has a little dongle. It's actually connected to that cable, which connects to, via the miracle of science, to a little microphone right there connected to me. All of this is connected to a software program that I don't know how to draw, which exists on this laptop. I'll just draw a little cloud because it's up there on the cloud somewhere. As I record the video, it goes into the cloud and it shoots off to this faraway mystical land called the UK, which is where my editing team is, or at least the editor that I work with. Who knows where his team is located? They do magical things to the videos and they push it out to YouTube, which is where you found it, probably. All of this is a system. This camera, this microphone, this laptop, the software, the editing team, YouTube. There's probably more parts of the system than what I'm recalling. All of these are components in the system. The components themselves don't make it a system. It becomes a system when it's connected through these dots here, through this wire here, through the interface between the operating system and the software system, when it's connected via the internet, etc. When all of it's connected, the connections and the components are both there, we begin to have a robust system. So what I do is I say my stuff to you, and then I send it off to the UK, and it magically gets edited somehow and ends up on YouTube, where you got to see it wherever you're located right now. I don't actually know how that works. They're all using systems on their side to help make all of that work. My editing team is, and YouTube are all using systems to make their bigger worlds, smaller worlds work as well. So in your organization, you have a set of components, whatever they are, and they're connected somehow. That's the system that we're talking about. A system is not having a personality in place who handles your IT or who handles your finances. It's not a set of habits that you're used to doing. It's not just a shared understanding or an ability to kind of figure it out. It's a structured way of doing things and of connecting components that's repeatable and that anybody else could figure out, anyone else could understand. That's what a system is. Systems tend to have defined inputs, defined handoffs, defined controls, a defined reporting cadence, defined accountability. There's structure that you're not using wires in some of your business systems, but you're using these other connecting pieces that I just described. So, for example, you might have a financial system, and in your financial system, and I don't even know enough about financial systems to draw it out, but you will have different components in your financial system. You'll have accounts payable, you'll have accounts receivable, you'll have payroll, you'll have, what else will you have? You'll have reporting up, you'll have controls that are in place, some kind of controls so people don't walk away with all your hard-earned money. You'll have anything else that you have in there, and these are all connected somehow, however they're connected to make your system work. Or they're not connected. I can tell you that many companies don't have a financial system. They only have the components, and it takes somebody who understands how to work with all the components and build their own special machine to make it all work. That's a very fragile company, because if that person who knows how to make all the components work goes away and nothing can be done, you can't run payroll, you can't get caught up on your bills, you can't get caught up on your invoices, you can't do anything, then you've got some real serious problems in your organization. And if you're building for an eventual exit, that's going to tank your value significantly if it even allows you to sell the company. If you want to be able to track what's going on without having to be there, it makes that very difficult and very hard to do. So if your structures between the components are not defined, you don't have a system. You just have components held together through a lot of effort. So why do many founders and many leaders in organizations avoid building systems? I guess I can leave it there. It took me a lot of work to build that, so I'm going to leave that picture there until it's in my way. All right, so why do founders avoid building systems? They avoid building systems oftentimes just because it's not that fun, right? So there's a few people I've met that really seem to like it, and they hear me talk about this, and they just go home and sit down, and they immediately just start writing out SOPs and designing systems and building all of it. But for most people, it feels kind of abstract, it feels kind of big, and they just don't know where to start. So people say that. They have a sense that this is going to take us forever. So I can tell you the reality is that most of this is in your head. Even this system right here, most of the complexity around that was in my head. There was definitely a learning curve. I had to figure out, which camera to buy and how to set the laptop up. And this is actually a very special cord, which connects to another special cord, which connects to a dongle, all that stuff took me a while to figure out, because I'm not an IT person at all. I'm not a video person at all by any stretch. And so I had to learn all of this. But after I learned it and put it together, it turned out it wasn't that complicated. I, at the beginning, wasn't asking the right questions in part. And once I started doing that, I was able to figure it out. Here's the real point though, is once I figured it out, I was able to move away from the duct taped systems that I had together that weren't designed that well and took me forever. Here's what happened is right now I've got a light here, I've got a light here, I've got the board here. It's not the most beautiful studio in the world, but it works. And all I have to do is come in, turn the lights on, flip a few switches, and I'm ready to go. That saves me hours and hours of work. It used to take me 30, 45 minutes to set up just to shoot one video, just to set up the system, because I didn't have it set up. I had to reconstitute it each time, and I often forgot what went where and how do I connect that and how do I make things work. And so one of the beauties of having a system that's set up is it just becomes so time efficient, but it feels like a lot of work and people don't know how to do it starting out. There's also a belief that if we have systems, we become more bureaucratic or we lose flexibility. And that's really not true. Here's what really happens. Systems remove unnecessary variation, not flexibility. Good systems still allow for flexibility. I have as much flexibility. I might have more flexibility now with a structured system than I had before, because the reality was trying to figure out how to re-put it all together each time actually cost me more flexibility than anything else. Systems convert control from just depending on my memory to specific mechanisms. And so it's very easy for me to do this now because it's all connected. So I don't have to try to remember all the different pieces. I can just come in, flip switches, and start. Systems increase reliability. One of the big issues, if you followed my channel for long, and I've actually taken some of the videos off, but I've had multiple starts to building a YouTube channel, and over a many-year period, and it always stopped because I didn't have a relatively simple system, studio setup in place, and so it was so hard to actually make a couple of videos that I just kept not doing it. Now, I'm able to produce a video every week. Actually, I produce them in batches, but I do about 5 a month, and I'm able to do it pretty quickly. It takes me so much less time because I have systems set up. And for me, one of the most important ones is be able to send videos off to this magical place in the UK where they just take whatever I send them and they somehow make it better than whatever it was that I sent originally. And so because I brought this set of systems into my little system here and I connected those two, I am able to produce regularly, whereas for years I wanted to and couldn't, or at least didn't. The other part is most systems start out small and then you iterate, you grow and you get bigger. In fact, when I started this, if you look at my very first videos that are still on this channel, you'll see that it looks a little rougher. And it was very basic what I was working off of. Sometimes I literally shot a number of the videos from my camera on my laptop, which my laptop was balanced on 4 glasses from a hotel, balanced on some boxes, balanced on, so I could get the laptop high enough so that it was at face level. And I had just, the whole thing was just kind of, duct taped together. It works, you can't tell that in the video, but I started small with what I had and then I built out from there. So here's a quick way that you can identify how to or where to start building systems in your business. When systems depend on people instead of structure, founders slowly become trapped in their own business. If you want a clear view of where your business still relies on you and where structure needs to change, start with the Value Builder Assessment. It's a free assessment designed to identify structural weaknesses and risks in areas where you can regain control and increase the value of your business. The link is in the description below. Step 1. Now, I want to keep this simple because I personally don't like this stuff. I have the capacity to respect and value things that I know are important, but I don't like. Building systems is one of the things that does not bring me joy in the morning. It just doesn't. And that's true for most people. I get that. And so one way that I tackle things that I don't like is I try to make it as easy as possible so that I have as little friction as possible in carrying it out. It's a good tip for you to remember. So this should take you 15 minutes. So I'm going to explain it to you. And then after you're done with the video, set a timer on your phone or maybe you got an old-fashioned timer. Set it for 15 minutes and walk through this process, and you will be amazed at how much you're able to get done in a very short amount of time without a whole lot of pain in the process. So divide your business into 4 operational buckets: admin, finance, operations, and sales, or whatever language you use for those terms. In case you're not sure, operations means anything in your business that's tied to producing the services or product and delivering the services and product that you have. Sales or business development or whatever. And I know that the marketing people and the PR people will all hate me for this, but we're going to lump them all into this bucket here. I get that they're not the same thing. So just create these buckets, first thing, and then you want to identify, so just create a list of paper, 4 columns on it. It's basically all we're saying. Step 2, what we're going to do is identify ID friction. Under each of these, just identify 1 or 2 friction points. What are 1 or 2 things right now that don't seem to work smoothly or have to keep being figured out or seem to break each time you move somebody into that role? Anything like that. So these are real patterns, but you just want to figure out what are some friction points under each of these. If you can't think of a friction point under sales because your marketing team has it so nailed down, what you want to do is just skip it and work on the other 3. It doesn't matter. The point is to learn the process and to keep it going easy. Step 3 is to ID any owner or CXO dependent. That's not going to work. Dependent tasks. So what you want to do is figure out what are some tasks, especially around friction, that drag the owner or your chief executive, whoever, into fixing that. If you don't have the specific title, chief executive, whoever would be the closest approximation to that. Step 4, prioritize. So if at this point in the video, you're feeling de-energized, I would just pick 1 or 2. If you're feeling really energized, maybe pick 3 or 5 that are important to you. But out of all of them, pick your top 1. Now, I'd have a list of a few and then say, okay, that's the one that we think is the most important. You can also, if you want, you can pick 3 that you think are important, but I would identify the top 1 That's the most important. Then I would say, okay, we're going to spend time working on that this week. This exercise should not take you longer than 15 minutes. Then I'm going to teach you how to build the SOP, or the standard operating procedure, or whatever you want to call it, around this. And that's also a pretty short and simple process as well, if you do it the way I describe it. Incidentally, what I'm going to describe to you, I learned from Dan Martell, giving credit where credit's due. I don't know if he invented it or if he borrowed the idea from someone else, but it's a good idea. So I'm going to give you a couple of simple ways to build a process to create it. The way that I like the best is when you are teaching a process to someone else, or you're teaching part of the system, part of the connecting the two components to somebody, to record yourself. So get your phone, or have them get their phone and record the explanation. Or if you're online doing it virtually, use some of the whatever software. You can use Teams or Zoom. You can use it for that. There's other specialty software for it. Doesn't matter. Keep it simple. Just use something and record yourself doing it. Have a team member transcribe what's going on. So if it's recorded, they can go back and pull it down and put it into an outline or a flow chart or whatever is best suited. And then if you want, you can use AI to help clean it up and make it simpler, but have your employee do that. So if you're explaining, let's say, here's the security procedure for locking up the building at the end of the night. If you're the last one to leave, this is how you exit the building and make sure that the building's secure. All right, so that's a standard operating process that's part of the system for security in the building. It's not the entire system, but it's one component that connects the security to the building. Here's how you make it all work. And so you explain it to your employee, they record it, they transcribe what's recorded. They don't have to do it word for word. All you really need are the steps or the outline or the flow chart, as I said. Maybe they use AI if that's helpful to help clean it up or make it easier. Then they bring that to you, you review it and correct it for accuracy, and then you publish it. That's version 1.0 for your, building security procedures for closing at the end of the night. Whatever you call it, probably a fancier title than what I came up with. Here's the value in that. You did very little work. All you did is explain how to turn on the alarms and close the doors and whatever, and what all needs to be checked. All you did is explain that one time, which you would have to do anyways. The other person who's learning how to do this had to do all the work. And because they're listening to you, then they had to write it out, and then they had to bring it back to you and present it to you, and maybe you have them demonstrate it or whatever. They're having at least 2, maybe 3 practice sessions or review sessions where they go over it, and they will learn it more effectively than if they just listen to you. And also, it's additional ways to tap into different kinds of learning styles. And so it's a fantastic approach. It's very simple and takes little effort for you. So if you have I think I had a little list here of a few things. You identified a few that you wanted to start with. And so let's say this one is building security. You sit down, you explain it to someone else, you say, hey, I want you to outline this and get this back to me by the end of the day tomorrow. They come back to you, and you've got version 1 of building security that you can put into a file that people can access. Now you've got your first process, which is part of the system. Now you may have other components to your security system in the building, or building maintenance, or how you handle your facilities, and you start to build out that system and the way all of those things connect, and you put it in a file. People can look at it and they can follow it. They can figure it out. This version 1 doesn't have to be perfect. A lot of people get stuck and they say, we don't know if this is it yet, or things are going to change, or we know in 6 months or 10 months we're going to get a new alarm system. Like, okay, it's not that big of a deal to redo this process at that point. So just build it now. Don't wait for perfection with that. Systems don't have to be perfect. They have to be usable. All right, so you apply this to your financial management, you apply this to hiring, you apply this to IT, you apply this to training and onboarding, you apply it to quality controls, you apply it to, taking care of your equipment or tools, to procurement, to logistics, to marketing process. There's all kinds of things that you can apply this to that makes it easy to just start slowly building out your manuals for how things work. And then as you identify the components of each, and you connect them to each other, whatever that looks like, and you've got explanation, these standard operating procedures for how these things are connected to each other, which can be, here's how you as a person make decisions regarding hiring, or it can be plug wire A into slot B. It doesn't matter if it's a very technical explanation or more of a people-y type explanation. You want to explain how certain things are connected to each other, how you do certain things. And when you do that, you start to build your systems out. That's a very simple, on purpose, simple way to understand it. If you're running $1 billion company, then that's maybe simpler than what you can run with right now, or if you're operating a nuclear submarine or something like that. But the basic principles are accurate and they will apply at least in concept to those situations as well. But for you, if you're listening to this, you're probably not on a nuclear sub right now trying to figure out the systems on it. And so instead, you're probably running a business and you need to build this out for the first time. And that's the easiest way I can think of that I know of to do that. So here's what changes when, I'm going to read this list here, when systems start to exist. Delegation becomes safe because there's consistency and there's clear expectations. You start to get predictability because you've defined how to do things the same way. You get speed. Decisions move faster without you because they don't depend on you. You start to get value transfer. In other words, it's easier to produce value in other places. It's easier to extend value to other places. You get reliability. There we go. And you remove internal dependency. So you get freedom. Systems build all of these things for you. And so if you have those in place, I'm going through, right now I'm helping a business prepare for a sale and move through the transaction. And as we get ready for them to enter their due diligence process, part of what we know the buyers are going to be looking for is what systems do you have in place? Because all of this, or much of this, speaks to low risk. If you don't have systems in place, you have a question mark around how safe is this business? How predictably will it perform? How fast or how hard is it or how slow is it to make decisions? Can we move value? Will value transfer to our new company? If we buy it, will it transfer to us at all or not? How reliable is this? Are we going to get sucked into having to reconstruct this business, or does it pretty much run on its own? That's low risk. The more that there's a question mark on here, you get high risk, and then buyers accommodate or they address that risk by pushing it onto the seller through various mechanisms. Oftentimes they just say it's not worth it to us. There's too much risk. So having these systems in place don't only just give you freedom or help you scale your business or help it grow, they actually put a lot of value into your business. All of those things are interchangeable. So the question to ask yourself around the buckets that we came up with at the beginning is, if you were to be just gone for 30 days, what would break in any of those areas, in any of those buckets? And can you create a system or a process for that so that somebody else can open the recipe book and read, here's how to do it while you're gone? If you do, that will give you freedom. One of my favorite assignments that I give clients is to go away on vacation. And I start teaching them to go away from the company, figure out what needs to be figured out while they're gone, develop the process or the system for that, teach the people that need to know how to do it, have it written somewhere so someone can find it, everybody knows where it is, and then have them go away on vacation. And then we see how well did that work while they were gone. We address whatever the lessons learned were when they come back, and then I send them away again for a longer vacation. And that's a good way for you to experiment with getting these things to work. When systems are designed correctly, the business stops relying on you to function day to day. Structure then replaces effort. Consistency replaces having to provide consistent oversight. But letting go also requires trust in your team and in the structure supporting them. In the next video, I'll show you how to build trust in your team so that you can delegate with confidence and create accountability that actually works. Now, if you've completed the Value Builder assessment, you'll know exactly where your business still depends on you, and that provides you a strong starting point for moving ahead.